Amena, it's 2016. What are you passionate about right now?
What am I passionate about? I'm passionate about challenging myself. I think with the work that I'm doing, that it's like writing, a combination of writing and stage work. I go through phases where I'm doing lots of writing, and then I go through phases where I'm doing lots of stage work. And I feel like I've reached a point where I've reached the capacity of what I can do with the stage work that I've done. So now it's time to take some new writing and convert it over into stage work, which is challenging, because now that's like new poems to have to remember and know really well, and trying to navigate what the stories are, like there's a challenge to doing that, but I need it and I'm excited. I'm excited about it.
Do you challenge yourself? Do you have anyone in your world that's also like a big champion for Amena challenging you?
I feel like as a creative writer, the spoken word poets on my local scene in Atlanta are that, even when they don't always know that they are. When we're home, I'm trying to go to open mics, and sometimes I go to slam competitions to hear, what the poets are doing. And just hearing their work is very inspiring, and hearing that they're always writing new things and forcing themselves to go through fumbling over it until you get it right, Spoken word and comedy are actually very similar in process to how you build, your set. You have to do it in front of an audience, which means you have to get up in front of people
and fail, maybe.
And mess up. Yeah. And that I know people that are doing that all the time. It keeps me from resting on my laurels, definitely.
Yeah, and I'm sure as a creative person, no one wants to get up and fail.
No, I hate failing.
But it challenges you to get better.
Yeah. You need it. You can't get to the other part without the stumbling and I forgot a stanza this time.
I mean, I know you travel and work with your husband. What is that like?
It is fun. It's a good time. I am married to a DJ. So, we were just good friends before we, ever really started working together or had romantic interest in each other. So there's still this part of us that's just like two friends getting to travel the world together, except now we're married to each other. Of course, there have been times that is frustrating, because when we collaborate on things, our creative processes are so different, like I've got to listen to my jazz music, and I've got to write about all my insecurities first before I can do my other stuff. And my husband is not that. Like I'm the tormented artist of the two of us. I'm the one that's like, this thing I'm about to write is gonna suck. And everything I write probably sucks.
It's like every emotion.
You know. And then I get in there and I write something. After I write it, I'm like, I guess that was all right, but it probably still sucked. Not my husband at all. My husband goes in the room, and he's a musician too, so he goes in there, he makes his music, he comes out and he goes, this thing I just made is amazing. I just made the most amazing song there ever is, And so I think that could be frustrating when you're collaborating, because I'm like, why are you so overconfident about it? And he's like, why are you so tormented about it? But that also helps us to build each other up, make each other stronger, help each other's weaknesses there too. So it's fun.
What's something you have learned about yourself through working with someone who is completely opposite of you in that sense? And how is your marriage? How do you see it growing because of those differences?
I think I've learned that as much as I am an artistic person, that I'm a creative person, I really am resistant to change. I'm not a creative person that's into spontaneity, and that I'm a planner. In my writing, it is actually very systematic in a lot of ways, So I've learned that you can't create like that. You cannot create and build beautiful things and be resistant to change. So that process with my husband sort of forces me in there. And I think that's been good for our marriage. I think it builds this good place of negotiation for the two of us, to sort of have to negotiate, like, this part needs to change. These things right here, maybe we've been doing this away and it works that way now, And maybe now we're in this season of life and that way that we were doing doesn't work. And we need to be okay sort of dancing between those two things, sort of having some fluidity in my life and being okay with that. I think that's definitely been building a good thing. And I think we're learning to give each other space to create in the way that you do also. Because I think sometimes it's kind of like, well, why are you doing that way, you know? I remember when we first got married, a friend of mine had been married maybe a few months more than me. And we went to lunch and I asked her, I said, well, give me advice. You tell me what, you know? And she said, I'm just going to tell you the best advice I've been given is there are 2 ways to hang curtains. And I was like, what? And she was like, yeah, we had our first fight over how we were going to hang these curtains. And it turns out there are 2 ways to do it. And we're fighting about if my way is better, if his way is better. So I always think about her when I think about those moments. I'm very resistant to change. My husband may have a totally different way of doing it, but if we get to the end result, that's important. There are 2 great ways to do this. My way isn't always better.
That's some good advice right there. You get 2 ways to get there. Amena, when you get to the end and your days are over and you're about to meet Jesus, what do you want your legacy to be? What do you want people to say about you?
I want people to say when they encountered my work that it gave them hope, or that it reminded them no matter how bad life gets, there's always hope, and that we have that hope because of Jesus, because of God. I hope that my legacy will be that I loved people well. That's so important to me. And I think loving people well is hard, and it's uncomfortable, and it's inconvenient. But my life has changed the most when people have loved me well. So I hope I can do that. And I hope people say that they had fun. I hope that is a part of my legacy, fun. That being a believer can be fun. That being a woman and being an adult, adulting, that this can be fun. That life is not about us having furrowed brows all the time. That we should laugh and enjoy the time that we have.
One last question. When you're writing new stuff, you said you're about to challenge yourself to creating more stuff for the stage, and you're writing these poems. Who are you thinking about? Do you think about somebody in your audience? Are you thinking about a specific woman, a specific person when you write?
It depends on the poem. Sometimes the poem comes from this question that I'm wrestling with, and it's sort of me like needling and needling and needling at the question. Sometimes, like when I write for If Gathering, I am thinking about a woman or a few types of women and what, or more so probably, what are the circumstances or the stuff that women bring into the room if they're sitting live with us in Austin, or if they're checking in with us on If Local, they're riding with us that way. What's the stuff that we bring as women, that we bring to the faith, that we bring to what keeps us from doing what God called us to do? What's the hard things, the tensions that we bring? And I try in those times to think about how those tensions play out and being able to explore that in words. So sometimes I am thinking of like a reader, I guess, or a person, and sometimes it's just like goofy things that I think about, and I'm like, is anybody else thinking about this?
And there is somebody else thinking about that, yes. I mean, thank you for what you do. Thank you for pouring your heart out and being vulnerable,
It's an
and
honor.
because it matters, and you do give hope to women, so thank you.
Thanks.